Welcome to ESPNU College Basketball. We're inside U.S. Bank Arena in downtown Cincinnati. Tonight, the Kansas State Wildcats take on the Xavier Musketeers. Jim Barber, Mark Adams, Happy New Year to you. And by the way, nice tailor.
Hey, and your tie is all straight. You dress up nice.
Worked on it all day long. Holiday greetings to you. We think we've got the best game in the country in our matchup tonight. Two teams that are trying to improve their NCAA tournament resumes.
The Big 12 versus the Atlantic 10. Kansas State, who knocked off Cal earlier this year, and Xavier beat the Indiana Hoosiers. Both these teams are trying to build on their March resume for March Madness.
Let's get to our Star Watch, and one of the biggest stars in the country, arguably the best player in the country, Michael Beasley from Kansas State University.
One of the leading scorers, the top rebounder in the country, been compared to Derek Coleman and Antoine Jamison. Enough said. And Drew Lavender, a little water bug who gets up and down in the 94-foot offensive explosion for the Xavier Musketeers. Watch for Drew Lavender here tonight to get it going for the Xavier Musketeers.
As we look at our starting lineups, if Beasley gets some help from freshman Bill Walker in the post tonight, the Wildcats could be dangerous this evening. As for Xavier, its strength is in the backcourt. Lavender and Burrell have been teammates for a while, over 200 consecutive starts combined. Down on the Ohio River tonight, festive atmosphere as you might imagine.
That's New Year's Eve, two great conferences with two great teams. Happy New Year to everybody from ESPNU. A little bit of hoops tonight to start off the year right.
And we are underway, and Xavier expected to do some zoning tonight. No surprise because Kansas State struggles from the outside. There's Beasley on the drive, and already a problem for the Wildcats. Offensive foul on their big star, and of course they can't afford to have him on the bench for any period of time tonight.
Yeah, Michael Beasley goes after his first 2 points, and the senior Stanley Burrell, who's the best defender on this Xavier University basketball team, he's the guy that stepped in and took the charge.
Xavier in the home white is considered a neutral court tonight, but Xavier obviously will have the home support. Second of 3 meetings between the two teams arranged by Bob Huggins, formerly of Kansas State and formerly of the Cincinnati area for a number of years, now at West Virginia. Here's Lavender, step back jumper, a little help from the inside, and that's Jason Love, who's been playing very well for the Musketeers as of late.
Jason Love is a coach's dream because he plays hard and practices hard.
Brown with a rebound. Musketeers look to push the ball tonight. Burrell, bounce pass Anderson, got it.
Stanley Burrell takes the charge on the first defensive possession, and right there with the unselfish play, that's senior leadership by Stanley Burrell.
Burrell's the team's best defender, and he has been drawing a lot of some pretty good players over the last couple of years. And now Beasley, an offensive foul and a traveling violation in the first 63 seconds mark. Frank Martin, we visited with him earlier today, and he got this job several months ago, set up nicely by Bob Huggins, the head coach at the time, and he said, you know what, people expected me to apologize for it. In the meantime, Sean Miller, his 4th year at Xavier, very successful. His team lost a tough one recently to Tennessee, but back and ready to go tonight on New Year's Eve.
Frank Martin doesn't have to apologize to anybody. One of the truly most successful assistant coaches in the country. He should be the head basketball coach at Kansas State. He's earned that right, come up to the coaching ranks.
Agreed, and his team off to a decent start at 9-3, the same for the Musketeers. Great drop off to Brown, and as he gets headborne, he will go to the free throw line to shoot a couple. So it's a good beginning for the Musketeers, who have jumped out 4-0 and will shoot free throws.
Well, a great job by Stanley Burrell recognizing the flying Derek Brown to the basket. And when you see Derek Brown around the rim, that's where he lives. He's a guy that gets up in the outer stratosphere of this arena.
Blake Young picks up the personal foul, his first, the team's second. And Brown gets the first free throw. Xavier is a terrific free throw shooting team at 76%.
Derek Brown is such a key to the Xavier Musketeer lineup. He's a guy, if he can continue to emerge as a scorer, as that live, lean athlete that can get steals, he gives so much to the Xavier Musketeer team.
Let's talk about the Wildcat keys to this game. They've got to make some baskets.
Got to make a few J's from the perimeter. You'll see Xavier kind of pack it in. Free throws, a poor free throw shooting team. And then Beasley and Walker, both those guys got to get off. And
neither player has scored. The team hasn't scored as of yet. We played a couple of minutes, and here's Lavender. Anderson and Stanley Burrell from Indianapolis. And Love. Xavier roughly 7, 8, 9 players deep, depending on how you view the support of these guys as of late. Sean Miller would like to go 9 if possible, but right now he's probably around 7 in big games.
He's trying to develop that depth as we speak. If Xavier can get to where they get productive 8 or 9 players, give Burrell a little bit of blow, give Drew Lavender a blow, they become a lot more dangerous over the 40-minute game segment.
Very important. That was exposed against Tennessee, which went as deep as 10, maybe 11. Lavender for a 3-ball, missed it. Love battling inside, and there's Michael Beasley with one of his many rebounds to come this evening.
And he averages a double-double, the leading rebounder in the country. Michael Beasley, of course, only a freshman. The most heralded recruit, really, in the history of K-State.
Oh, yeah. From the outside, shot missed by Walker. Heralded freshman as well, and Kansas State still without a point, trailing 6-0. Here's C.J. Anderson on the drive, and Anderson may be stepping the free throw line for 2 more. Right now, Xavier is doing everything it needs to do to get off to a great start.
C.J. Anderson got his confidence in the last game, and the shellacking of Delaware State, got 12 points in that basketball game, and he's a warrior type of guy. He likes to do the dirty work. Go down, get you an offensive stick back, he'll run the floor for you. Good work ethic, C.J. Anderson.
Probably got it from his dad, who went on to play in the National Football League. Josh Duncan comes in for Xavier. Anderson, number 40 for Kansas State. That's Ron Anderson, a freshman out of Maryland. Get to the keys to the game for Xavier.
Stay out of foul trouble. 3-point shooting, knock them down, and force some turnovers as they go.
And get off to a great start, which it has. E.J. Raymond enters the lineup. He has started on occasion this year for the Musketeers. How about this 8-0 start for X?
Yeah, you know, this is a team that really gets, when they get going early, they become so dangerous because Burrell is an emotional player. Drew Lavender likes to get everybody involved. When Josh Duncan gets off early, there's such an effective Xavier Musketeer offense.
Frank Martin with that look as who are these guys out there turning the ball over and committing fouls?
This is a young team for Kansas State going on the road. And while they have a quality win against Cal, this team really has been untested on the road so far.
Lavender penetrated. That set up the 3 by Raymond. It is 11-0 Xavier.
And the guards are dominating. Lavender plus Burrell has been the winning combination for the Xavier basketball team.
Musketeers have scored on 5 of their first 6 possessions. Stewart trying to make something happen. Ball almost turned over, and in fact turned over. And if you're Frank Martin, when do you get a timeout here?
4 turnovers now for Kansas State, and Frank Martin is trying to wait until the media timeout, which will be in about 28 seconds from now. He's trying to wait and hold on to that timeout. But a young team, sometimes, Jim, you got to burn them early to get them back regrouped.
Wildcats have missed on all 4 attempts. They've committed 3 turnovers and 3 personal fouls. Great backdoor look. Burrell didn't have the shot. He finds a shooter. That's Duncan. And it's a 2-touchdown lead for Xavier. 14-0. Timeout, Wildcats. Frank Martin can be a fiery guy, and he's got to be very disappointed with this beginning, already down 14 points in less than 4 minutes.
Well, a lot of people forget, even with Michael Beasley, with Bill Walker, this is a very young Kansas State basketball team. They really have not played a true road game this year. This is the first time they've gone on the road in a hostile environment. And so far, Xavier, with so many seasoned veterans, they're taking full advantage early.
Possession number 8 for the Wildcats. So far, nothing but zeros. And Michael Beasley, their star player, has picked up a personal foul. He's being guarded right now by Brown. On the Stewart misses. Beasley tries to save. It'll stay in the hands of the Wildcats, and now the under 60-minute television timeout. Great beginning for Sean Miller and the Musketeers. 14-0 Xavier. ESPNU's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by eHarmony.com. Are you ready to fall in love? Jim Barber with Mark Adams. Xavier 14, Kansas State nothing. And 15:47 remaining here in the first half. Let's look at Mark's elite 8 mid-majors, and they are all good ones.
Well, Gonzaga, what a great run. Utah State and Stu Morrill with J.C. Carroll this year. The last 10 years, these are the best teams in the country of what I like to call from the bracket buster conferences, the teams that you like to see in March make a run in the NCAA tournament. How about Creighton and Dana Altman? Butler, led by A.J. Graves this year. What a tremendous job. Barry Collier started it there, then Thad Matta, and on it's gone. Penn, Xavier. I think Xavier over the last 25 years, 20 seasons of 20 wins. The Xavier Musketeers, along with Sean Miller, have done a great job. Thad Matta, Bob Stack, Pete Gillen. What a great run of coaches and tremendous players. Skip Prosser as well, and God bless him at the end of the year, who passed away this year. We miss Skip Prosser.
Absolutely. Walker finally gets the first points of the night for Kansas State. They will not be shut out this evening, but they trail by a dozen.
Well, Michael Beasley, I sort of assumed they wouldn't get shut out.
Yeah. We thought they'd get around the scoring eventually.
Not to mention Bill Walker, two tremendously talented freshmen.
Raymond inside misses, and Kansas State with the rebound, and they will push. Jacob Bullock, fine freshman point guard. Kansas State commits turnover number 4. You can't get anything going on the offensive floor when you turn the ball over. And that turnover doesn't burn him as Beasley gets the rebound, his second board of the night.
And Kansas State has just struggled making anything positive happen.
A freshman accounting for 70% of the scoring against a very young team. Beasley and Walker are their two big-time players, and Beasley, likely in the act of shooting, will get a couple here. College basketball continues on ESPNU Wednesday night. My partner heads down the road to Pittsburgh. The Lafayette Leopards take on Sam Young and the Panthers, who have dropped to the 13th position in the rankings. College basketball, ESPNU Wednesday night at 7 Eastern. For more info, log on to ESPNU.com.
Sam Young, one of my guys here that I really think is going to make a big statement in the Big East, averaging 15 points per game. And Jamie Dixon with DeJuan Blair. I mean, that's a young guy that can really get it done. Lafayette now 8-3 on the season.
And doing quite well in extra periods, having won all 3 of its overtime games.
And with Levance Fields now being out for Pitt.
Whoa, what a blow.
Lafayette at 8-3, a surprise team in the Patriot League.
How about Brian Roberts the other night for UD Dayton, scoring 31 in a runaway win for the Flyers over Pitt.
The Gem City is energized by the Dayton Flyers right now after the big win over Pitt and Louisville, but that's been par for the course in the Atlantic 10.
Josh Duncan's got that nice stroke. He struggled mightily against Tennessee recently, missing on 7 3-point attempts. And with the score 14-3, Kansas State has the ball. Jim Barber, Mark Adams on New Year's Eve from ESPNU. And a foul called on the Musketeers, and that's on B.J. Raymond.
After the timeout, Frank Martin has demanded the ball go down to Michael Beasley in the low block, and he's challenged Bill Walker to attack the rim. I like the strategy to bring this team out of their offensive funk right now.
This team shooting just 29% for the arc coming in. No surprise the teams will throw zones and pack it in on Beasley and force Kansas State to win a game from the outside. Held ball goes over to Xavier.
And Frank Martin just turns to his assistant coaching staff and what's going on? Is this my team that's out here?
Yeah, he had that kind of look. 6 turnovers now for Martin's team, and just 3 points to show for the first 6 minutes. Now the Musketeers started off very well, 4 of 6. Have missed their last 4, but they're holding serve nicely so far, Mark.
Yeah, if I'm Frank Martin, I'm less concerned about what's happening offensively, although that's been very poor. And a lot more concerned about what's going on defensively, because Xavier's getting open look after open look.
Would have had a 3 there. That one doesn't go down as it rimmed out as Lavender drove and pitched, and Walker gets high up in the air and jams.
Welcome home, Bill Walker, to Cincinnati, Ohio. Used to to play at North College Hill, just outside of the Queen City.
Making the move from small to power forward with a lot of power on that move. Lavender answers, though. He took his man off the dribble, and Drew Lavender scores.
He's got to be the biggest 5'9" guy in the country.
I agree.
And he can just create space because he's strong. He can hold people off. And he has such an early release around the basket. Drew Lavender from Xavier.
Had a game last year against Charlotte. Time running out first half, he threw one from 60 feet in, and he did it with all the strength he had.
Bill Walker accepts the rock, skipping across the pond, and just rim rattles it in front of 30 hometown fans here tonight.
And because of Walker's association with O.J. Mayo and all the other accolades that have gone with great high school players he has played with, he's very comfortable in front of the microphone as Michael Beasley misses on his first. Well, you mentioned Walker and coming back here and his association with this area. Back-to-back state titles for Division III. Over 1,000 career points, 8th in school history, and very poised. So as mentioned earlier with the press, he's gotten very comfortable. He's only done a couple thousand interviews ever since people discovered his great athletic ability.
He's a smart young man. And can you imagine being teammates with O.J. Mayo and Michael Beasley?
By the way, ESPN the magazine, the story on Bill Walker talking about his rough surroundings that he grew up from and the struggles he and his family had, and they're making out nicely now.
Well, Nancy Sloan is a real inspiration. His mother, and this is a family that really grew up under hard times, and Nancy Sloan has made a commitment to her children that they're going to be educated, that they're never going to be challenged financially or in any way again. And Bill Walker, a real good student at Kansas State as well.
Andre Gilbert picked up the foul. First free throw converted. Xavier with a 17-5 start tonight in a little less than 7 minutes.
With the Atlantic 10 just so strong. Xavier, UMass off to a great start. Rhode Island now in the top 25. Dayton, watch out for St. Joe's as well. Phil Martelli's got players. It's the best the A-10 has been since 2004 with Jameer Nelson and Delonte West and those guys.
I would agree with that. A little flashback to some great moments for Xavier during that year. Walker for 3 misses. And the rebound taken down by Xavier. Here comes Lavender on the push after the rebound from Graves. Plenty at stake tonight as these teams try to bump up their tournament resumes before they get into conference play. B.J. Raymond works the baseline. Tough pass inside the left. Somehow he came up with it, but he got it taken away from him.
Michael Beasley just stood his ground. That was strength against strength.
Strong move on that particular play by Walker. A couple of bodies go down, we play on, and here comes Drew. Drew Lavender, who started his career, as you know, at Oklahoma, and got some, I don't know if you call it revenge, but certainly some satisfaction when this Xavier team beat Indiana under the direction of Calvin Sampson, who was his coach with the Sooners.
Now, and Drew's very comfortable here at Xavier. And, you just feel like Xavier's always under control when Drew Lavender is on the floor.
Flopped by Sutton, thrown up by Raymond, and a rebound down to Beasley. The numbers starting to add up for Michael Beasley, who has 4 rebounds in the game. That's a long 3 and away, and that is not the forte of the Wildcats.
No, in fact, that's exactly what Xavier wants to do. Because of this, now they can get up and down and play 94 feet. Early shots lead to easy baskets on the opposite end.
Good point. That made it easy, and look at the Xavier bench explode to the largest lead of the game, now at 15.
Well, young team, you've got to watch this team closely now. They're on the verge of getting blown out early.
Walker trying to take his man off the dribble at the free throw line. Misses on the jumper. And it's 1 and out for Kansas State, although Walker almost got a tip in. Here comes Lavender. Right now, Kansas State has nobody to stop him. Love calls for the ball. Working on Beasley. Scores on Beasley.
It wasn't pretty, but it worked for the Xavier Musketeers.
And another Kansas State timeout. Xavier threatening to blow Kansas State into the new year. Some 50 years ago, some proud moments back when the NIT tournament was as prestigious, if not more, than the NCAA tournament.
And that 1958 team actually lost 10 out of their last 15 games. Were basically uninvited to the NIT, but Jim McCafferty said, no, we're going to be there. They were the bottom seed of the 32 teams, and they went on to win the 1958 NIT. The first team from Ohio to win a national championship in college basketball.
What a wonderful tournament the NIT has been over the years, obviously with more accolades in years past.
Well, in 1958, it was the tournament.
Yeah, I agree.
You won the NIT, you were considered to be the national champions.
X leads K-State 22-5. I'm surprised. How about you?
I'm surprised, and I think Kansas State, they need to get back down and shove the ball down low to Michael Beasley and Bill Walker. Get them close to the basket, because one of two things is going to happen. They're going to score or get fouled.
Michael Beasley, as highlighted at the beginning, top 5 scorer in the country, has 1 point.
Get it to him low. Whatever you got to do, get Michael Beasley the ball on the block, and Xavier working hard to cover that block.
Collapsing on him, inviting Kansas State to shoot the jumper. But the Wildcats continue to have problems. 2 of 12 from the floor. Anderson in the open court slipped a bit, and as he goes to the hoop, is going to be called for an offensive foul. With that, a timeout. One of the few things that has not gone right tonight for Xavier. Another look at Lavender. His team ahead 22-5 with 10:18 to go in our first half. City of Cincinnati in a party mood tonight. So far, their team, Xavier, off to a wonderful start. Maybe New Year ready to go. Our score is 22-5. Jim Barber, Mark Adams, welcome back to U.S. Bank Arena. By the way, are we bound by midnight deadline in these things like Cinderella?
Yeah, they're rentals, definitely.
Yes, they are. We should talk about the A-10 and the success so far. We think of Xavier and the way it played against Indiana. There are other examples as this conference is doing well.
Now, Xavier took on the Indiana Hoosiers and Kelvin Sampson, one of the top 10 teams in the country, and Xavier made this team pay, not only through their tremendous athletic offense and 94 feet, but defensively. Stanley Burrell did a tremendous job of closing down Eric Gordon as well, holding him to only 4 for 12 from the floor. As you see Drew Lavender there, put an exclamation point. How about the Atlantic 10 throughout the season? Xavier with the win over Indiana. UMass knocks off Syracuse. St. Joe's beats Penn State. Charlotte over then undefeated Wake Forest. Rhode Island over Providence and Syracuse. And the Dayton Flyers, they deny Rick Pitino his 500th victory down in Louisville, and then they absolutely paced the number 6 Pittsburgh Panthers by a score of 80-55.
Should be a fun conference to watch this year, and with a little equal time to the Big 12. Every team in that conference is above 500. It's the only league that can boast of that. Number 2 in the RPI. Kansas State started this game 0 for 5 and hasn't improved much since then.
The Big 12, very, very strong conference this year. As Kansas obviously loaded. You've got Oklahoma much improved. I mean, this is a conference, they're going to send multiple, maybe 5, 6 teams to the NCAA tournament this year. And Kansas State working to be in that group.
Push-off foul called against the Wildcats. Let's take a listen. How would you like to be among those bodies tonight?
Well, and Josh Duncan has been dinged up a little bit, and he's a kid that, plays hard, is a big body, but not the most physical player. You look at him and say, man, he can go down low and score, but he's a guy that would rather face up. And Sean Miller would like to see him get a little bit tougher, play through some injuries on occasion, really get out there and bang it up, use that body.
It's the one area of note when you talk about Duncan and any weakness he might have. In the meantime, Brown goes to work inside. Foul earlier, by the way, on the other possession on Ron Anderson, his first. Fred Brown back in the game. Frank Martin trying desperately to find a combination that works, Mark.
Again, a young team on the road that just has not really responded very well right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with on the defensive end. Xavier really able to get out and get good looks.
You saw the mention of an 8-0 Xavier run, and the Musketeers started this game with a 14-0 run.
I do like the interior defense of Bill Walker and also Michael Beasley. Those two guys have stood tall and strong down low.
Sweet move by Beasley, missed Walker with the follow-up, and somehow or other Bill Walker got inside to score the ball.
Well, Michael Beasley got the ball in the paint. Bill Walker went to the offensive glass. That's exactly the recipe for success. Get those guys involved in the paint, turn into a physical match down low with Bill Walker and Michael Beasley from Kansas State.
Sounds like a good plan for the Cats, who need to utilize that to try to work their way back in. Walker has 6, Beasley has a point. That's it for Kansas State. Lavender with some help outside, fading away, missing, tip back up and in by the guy that can get up as high as anybody, Derek Brown.
He's got a PhD in stratosphere research.
He does.
That guy just explodes. He absolutely is a rocket to the basket.
Great energy as well from Brown, and you'll see that as he runs the court, and nothing going right for Kansas State. This has been a real struggle since coming into the arena tonight about an hour and a half before, as Walker picks up the foul.
Well, Frank Martin and those of us who have coached before, we know that when we take young teams on the road, it's a Jekyll and Hyde type of experience, and sometimes your team comes out with tremendous energy and competes hard, and other times, even without notice, without any warning, they come out a little bit flat. And so far, Kansas State has been flat.
How close is Kansas State to being blown out of this game?
With this senior dominated, with guys like Burrell, with Lavender, guys like that running the show, you've got to watch the score real close right now.
Wildcats on the break, missed the easy one, and as Beasley tried to follow, he couldn't score it either. Tough luck for Kansas State. Here comes Xavier once again, and they're attacking inside and missing. Anderson will get another chance, and CJ is going to the free throw line when we come back. Energized plays tonight, and why not? Xavier has frustrated Michael Beasley and leads 24-7. Xavier 24, Kansas State 7 from US Bank Arena in Cincinnati, Ohio, the great city, the Queen City. Jim Barber and Mark Adams from ESPNU. These young ladies will be staying up late tonight, and why not? We're about 4.5 hours Eastern time anyway from introducing the year of 2008.
Xavier's had a good run in this building, certainly. Won their last 6 games in US Bank Arena, and I've seen several of them, and a lot of them were in the Atlantic 10 Conference Tournament when it was here. Of course, Xavier earning the NCAA bid 2 years ago, winning the tournament here.
Xavier's home, as many of you know, is the Cintas Center, where just recently Sean Miller's group helped top 1 million fans. It's a beautiful arena.
And what a job Sean Miller has done here at Xavier. I'm about a guy that really paid his dues, an assistant to Herb Sendek. Been a guy that has been around this game. His father was a very successful high school basketball coach. Of course, Sean, one of the great point guards in Big East history, a tremendous distributor. Assistant to Thad Matta as well. He's earned his stripes.
And his team, one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country, Mark, 8 for 8.
And that's a big stat, late game situations. Burrell and Lavender shoot 93% from the free throw line.
Another Kansas State turnover. Anderson runs the floor, lays it up, missed it, but Burrell to clean it up.
4 white jerseys following, 1 purple jersey. Xavier is outwilling Kansas State right now.
And Kansas State with just 2 points in the last 6.5 minutes. Got to find a way to get the ball to Beasley somehow.
Great block out by Jason Love against the nation's leading rebounder, Michael Beasley.
Beasley held to a single point so far as Raymond attacks. And right now Xavier doing whatever it wants to out there, leading 30-7.
Well, Xavier was ranked in the top 25 earlier this season. They look like a top 10 team tonight.
Playing as if it wants to get back in the polls. Dayton climbed to the top 25 with a big one over Pitt over the weekend.
Well, when you talk hustle, you talk Xavier Musketeer basketball. Now, watch the turnover here as this play progresses, and watch the white jerseys. White jerseys sprint. You've got 2 purple jerseys in the screen. One leaves. There's 1 purple jersey left. for Xavier Musketeers. Finally, one more purple jersey comes in the screen. Sean Miller's got to feel great about that. Frank Miller has to be absolutely upset about that.
In this game, Xavier had a 14-0 start and now a 16-2 run.
And Frank Martin. Sean Miller and Frank Martin.
Well, we know who you meant.
I haven't started with my celebration early, I promise.
Oh, I know that. Xavier goes zone. Kansas State 3 of 17, now 3 of 18 for the floor. Brown gets the ball back and he banks it in. First points of the night for Fred Brown off the bench for Frank Martin's Wildcats.
And it turned into a scrum because Bill Walker was in there muscling his way to the basket. Great offensive board work by Bill Walker for Kansas State.
Kansas State nearly 14 minutes into the game mark with just 9 points. And Michael Beasley, while he's doing a nice job on the boards with 7 rebounds, he has one point.
Xavier's not turning it over on the offensive end. They're digging deep defensively. They've been physical. They've been aggressive to the ball. You know, Stanley Burrell is a guy that leads this team defensively. When he started his career, he was a scorer. He was a guy that could go off for 30 points on one night. But he's become a very well-rounded player. Stanley Burrell now is the defensive leader of this basketball team. He brings energy.
It's a time-worn phrase about guys having to buy in, but particularly on the defensive end, and Burrell's been able to do just that, is lock into being the stopper for his team. He drew the assignment of Chris Lofton, to name a few, and of course Eric Gordon, as you documented minutes ago, played well against both. Ball taken away from Love, or was it? Let's see. Yes, out of bounds. Kansas State with 5:50 to go. Women's college basketball continues on ESPNU Wednesday night. A good one. Candace Parker, number 3 ranked Tennessee, the Lady Vols against DePaul. 10-1 on the year. Women's college basketball on ESPNU Wednesday night, 9 Eastern. For more info, log on to ESPNU.com. How about DePaul? 600th team win, franchise win, university winning as Appalachian State, and off to its best start in school history before losing recently at 10-0.
That's going to be a madhouse in Chicago.
Oh, man, it is sold out in McGrath Arena. Off the bench, Fred Brown helping Kansas State's attack.
Well, Fred Brown has definitely brought some energy. He's been productive lately off the bench. Getting about 12 minutes a game. I like what he's doing in this stretch. He's bringing Kansas State a little bit of momentum offensively and defensively with his effort. He's going to get some more time if this performance continues. He has the last 4 points for the Wildcats. Here's Burrell to Graves, and look how they distribute the ball. Still plenty of time on the shot clock. Brown explodes to the baseline and a pass from Burrell. And these guys just move so well around the basketball. The hardest thing to teach a young team is to take away dribble penetration from an opponent. And right now, Xavier getting the gaps every single possession. And that started from the get-go tonight when the Musketeers built up a 14-0 lead. Lavender with a lot of good dribble drive, and there have been others to help out as well. Well, Kansas State, every time the ball's gone low, some good things have happened right there. Is able to draw the foul and go to the free throw line. Bill Walker just so strong, and Frank Martin likes his hands. He likes the kid's work ethic. There you see his numbers. Very, very productive. Came off of a knee injury a year ago. Tough kid, a good kid. ACL tear, had an injured thumb as well. He's been able to fight through a lot of things recently. And he gets the first free throw. He's a good free throw shooter at 77%. As Duncan and Anderson re-enter for Xavier. Bill Walker. The thing I like about his game is that he brings tremendous strength. He brings a work ethic in the post. And when he catches the ball at 15, he wants to get to 8 feet. When he gets to 8 feet, he wants to get to the rim. I like that attack mode from Bill Walker. And for Kansas State to have a chance in its conference, Walker's going to have to score and score plenty. In the paint, Xavier a huge edge at 18-8. And the ball taken down by the Wildcats. They have stemmed the tide for the moment anyway. Here comes Pullen, the fine freshman. Walker spinning on the baseline, nowhere to go. And Xavier just holding their ground defensively against Bill Walker and every Kansas State player that comes to the basket. But that good defensive pressure by X moments ago. 4-9 as Duncan picks up an offensive foul, and we come back the other way. Kansas State's defense, although down 32-13 right now, has improved over the last 5 minutes. They've had better interior defense. They've done a little better job taking away dribble penetration. And this is a team that's talented enough that can make a run. They can get it going, but they got to do it on the defensive end first. They're starting that right now.
Well, and Xavier's not shooting the ball particularly well tonight. 11 for 26. Now a 3-ball on the way. And off the bench, Fred Brown, couple of field goals, have made 3. He has scored 7. And how about this? Lead been sliced in half, 32-16.
Now Fred Brown right there has got his feet set. A little bit of left hand in that jump shot, but it goes down. Right now, Kansas State will take it. He's a top 15 player by ESPN 150 out of the state of Florida. Fred Brown very productive off the bench.
Brown's average coming in just 3 points a game, but he's building up some quality playing time with what he has done off the bench, keeping Kansas State, for the moment anyway, from being blown out. And this run now has reached 9-2 for the Cats. Lavender gets Stewart up in the air and hands it off to Anderson, and as he leans into the basket, he is fouled, and he'll step to the free throw line. When we come back, 3:48 left in our first half. It's Xavier 32 and Kansas State 16 on the banks of the Ohio. Well, Mark, you know what we say at ESPN, you never graduate. I think that's an X-fan there, and he should have plenty to be proud with tonight as Xavier leads 32-16. Let's talk a little bit about what's coming at halftime. You have put together a list of superstars from our freshman class.
Hey, we got some great freshmen we're going to talk about. One of them on the court tonight. And we're all going to look back in history from the great Xavier players, from the great Kansas State players. Talking a little Bob Boozer tonight, and also Byron Larkin as well from Xavier. We're going to have a good time with that.
Byron in the house this evening, working radio for 700 WLW, along with John Sunderman.
Byron right there. Boy, what a great player he was. You talk about explosive. He had a brother who was a pretty good baseball player here in town as well.
Barry, was that his name? Yeah.
Byron, the all-time leading scorer right there. Look at that. 4 players scored over 2,000 points in their career. I didn't have 100 points my whole career counting grade school.
Really?
Could lock me in the gym all night. But that guy was so explosive. He could create shots. He was a whirling dervish offensively.
Anderson missing on his second free throw, but tonight Xavier 9 of 11 from the line. Kansas State from the floor, 6 of 23, and their star player, Michael Beasley, has been held to a point. And right now, Beasley is off the court. Martin trying anything to get this team going, and a foul called on Xavier. Well, the Wildcats be without Fred Brown tonight with his 7 off the bench.
Fred Brown's done a great job of running this offense, coming off the bench, bringing energy defensively, and coming out of the timeout. I like the look. Fred Brown got his team settled down, and they got it to their go-to guy, Bill Walker, down low.
Bill Walker, the top scorer for K-State with 8. For up-to-the-minute news for everything that is college sports, log on to ESPNU.com. If you don't have ESPNU, be sure to log on to ESPNU.com and type in your zip code at the top of the page, or call your local cable operator or satellite provider. Log on to ESPNU.com today. There are some terrific matchups coming up on the U in the month of January and February.
You can see the post-game hits as well. So take a look at Michael Beasley, nation's leading rebounder, number 4 in scoring. So far, the Xavier defense has stifled Michael Beasley tonight in the first half.
Just 2 attempts at the basket for the outstanding freshman. He does have 7 rebounds, but it's his scoring they need badly tonight, along with the boarding. Bullet pass to love, swatted away by Walker.
And what a reaction by Bill Walker on the backside defensively. Stanley Burrell whips it inside. Jason Love goes up for the jam, and Bill Walker says, no way. Get it out of here. This is my hometown. Bill Walker.
And some energy for the Kansas State bench.
If you play for Frank Martin, with his background, being a kid of Cuban refugees, his grandparents came to the country in 1960. This guy has learned the hard way. He's had a job from the time he's been 12 years old to today. Talk about work ethic, talk about intensity, talk about a guy that's earned his stripes. There's a guy right there in Frank Martin.
Said he was out of coaching for a couple of months at one time in his career, and it drove him crazy.
Worked for Rudy Keeling up at Northeastern, and You know, he's a guy that constantly has to have things going. We talk about players with a revving motor. This guy's got a revving motor.
His team off to a horrible start tonight, down 14-0. Since then, outscored 21-17. Wildcats continue to have some big-time problems shooting the ball from the outside, but when they attack inside, get the ball to Walker, good things start to happen. He now has 11.
There's Walker again. He catches the ball at 10, but he creates a 5-foot opportunity. He constantly attacks the basket.
Oh, and Kansas State holding its own, even with Beasley on the bench. Little backdoor to Lavender, unable to make a drive on it. And now he hands it off to Brown, and boy, the way these guys are moving off the basketball. A real problem tonight for Kansas State.
And again, it's because Xavier able to get into gaps, and when you get past the defender, it's 5-on-4. Somebody's open. Drew Lavender with the distribution that time.
Back that up. 8 assists on 12 made field goals tonight. Sean Miller shakes his head in disgust. Foul called on Xavier. That's on Brown. 2 now on Derek Brown, and free throws coming up for Stewart. You have heard Dick Vitale talk about this in the Jimmy V Classic. Fred Stewart's mom, struggling with breast cancer, was able to make it to New York to watch her son play. And he was interviewed prior to that particular series of games in New York City and said, you know, I don't have a bad day when I see what my mom is up against.
His goal is that he would like to see the world as his mother sees it. I think that's a pretty good goal for a young man with high goals.
Our prayers to his family.
All our best to Vanessa.
2 minutes for the first half. 37-21 Xavier.
Xavier with good spacing. That's why they're able to get into some gaps. They're spreading the defense out, and they're able to get into gaps.
Morrell misses on the 3. Here comes Pullen, the freshman out of Illinois, and as he drives the basket, he is fouled. Does it seem like Kansas State's starting to get the hoop a little bit better now?
I think because they're attacking the basket, they're getting the ball in the paint, either by pass or by dribble, as Pullen takes the ball right into the gut of the defense, draws a little bit of contact there, and now we'll go to the line. We've seen Kansas State go to the line now consistently over the last 6 minutes because they're attacking the basket.
Graves picked up the foul. 2 free throws here would cut the lead to 14, which is exactly the deficit Kansas State ran into in the first 4 minutes.
He's a true freshman, but he has started some games, so he's had some good game experience.
The Wildcats have had to rest Michael Beasley because of his foul situation. He has 2. But give some credit to the Wildcats after a rough beginning. As Xavier uses a timeout, they've been able to get some life back into the game. Friday night, ESPNU dishes more college basketball as the Fairfield Stags face the Loyola Maryland Greyhounds. College basketball presented by the Home Depot on ESPNU Friday night at 7 Eastern. For more info, log on to ESPNU.com today. Fairfield beaten by William and Mary today, 71-50. So Fairfield drops to 3-9 on the season. But I've had a chance to watch Jonathan Hand play, and he can shoot the ball from the outside. 45% shooter. His team was in Cincinnati about a month ago to play the Bearcats.
On my alma mater, the Cincinnati Bearcats down a little bit this year.
Yes, oh, indeed.
Picked to be in the bottom 2 or 3 of the Big East. But I'll tell you what, they played Xavier well. Probably their best game of the season was against their crosstown rival in the crosstown shootout against the Xavier Musketeers.
Got a nice win over the weekend against Miami here at US Bank Arena a couple of days ago. From the corner. Shot missed, ball out of bounds. Keep it on Xavier's side with 92 seconds left. Well, it's been a Kansas State 12-5 run. What's been the biggest difference for the Wildcats?
I think defensively they've made it a lot more difficult for Xavier to get into some gaps. They've been able to stand their ground in their low post defense. I think Frank Martin has made some good adjustments offensively of attacking the basket off the dribble and the pass. Get the ball in the paint for Kansas State.
And in attacking the basket, the Cats have gotten the free throw line on 4 of their last 7 possessions.
This is a team, when they score from the free throw line, when they score 20 or more points from the free throw line, they win. In their losses, they've only had 8 made free throws.
They extend the defense there. The ball finally gets to Lavender, and he rolls it in.
How does a little guy like that get that shot off? It's because he has such a quick release. He's learned that throughout his career.
Mark Lavender now has 6. Raymond leads him with 9 off the bench. Brown with 8. 7 for Anderson. Kansas State answers with a basket of its own. Red Brown to the rescue for the Wildcats tonight. Down 39-25. And they've been able to protect Michael Beasley for the last 5 minutes with 2 fouls. And speaking of the little guy, long-range 3, Drew Lavender.
Little high post screen there, gave him enough room. Defender didn't roll out. Drew Lavender let it fly.
Time and possession clocks differing by about a half a second, but Kansas State won't use it. Now it gets a chance to use the last 15 seconds.
Get the last shot here. Don't give it back to Xavier, and that's exactly what they do.
In fact, K-State took 2 quick shots in those 2 possessions.
Xavier now will run a high screen. There he goes.
To the basket. Count the basket.
Late game time management. Kansas State takes 2 early shots, gets the ball back to Xavier, and the senior Drew Lavender makes them pay.
After the Wildcats had rallied to within 14, the quick shot results in Lavender breaking down the defense.
The high screen, get into gaps, and that one rolls right in. Late game management. When you got a Drew Lavender as a senior point guard who runs the show, you're going to make good decisions. The difference between inexperience and experience, the Xavier Musketeers.
Lavender with 11. Xavier plus 19 on Kansas State. We are at halftime. Michael Beasley of Kansas State averages 25 a game. He has scored 1 here in the first half. That's why K-State way down to Xavier. 44-25. Jim Barber, Mark Adams back with you from U.S. Bank Arena. Again, happy holidays. Hope it's a safe and prosperous one for you as we approach 2008. And as we do so, let's talk about the top players in the country. I have seen Eric Gordon play. You have seen a couple of the superstars play, including Derrick Rose of Memphis. Let's talk about the great ones so far.
Well, I got a chance to open the season at Memphis with one of the top teams in the country, and I think
halftime at U.S. Bank Arena in Cincinnati. Xavier 44, Kansas State 25 on New Year's Eve. These 2 teams play again next year in Manhattan, and that will be the conclusion of the 3-year deal put together by Bob Huggins. Welcome back, Mark Adams with Jim Barber and our fine ESPNU crew. Let's go back in history to some of the greats of Kansas State. I think you've teased a little bit of this during the broadcast. But why not? Bob Boozer certainly is a name that sticks out. Mitch Richmond, another one. I had a chance to see play in college many years back.
When you talk Kansas State basketball, you've got to start with Bob Boozer, the sweetest 20-foot jump shot in the history of college basketball. 11 NBA seasons, a gold medalist in the 1960 Olympics. This guy could really, really play. Rolando Blackman, a guy that did everything. He was the Big 8's Defensive Player of the Year. Another Olympian as well. And when you needed a clutch shot, you go to a guy that went to the NBA for 11 seasons, 4-time All-Star. You got to love Rolando Blackman. And one of the Big 8's all-time great shooters and scorers, Mike Evans out of Goldsboro, North Carolina. He came out as the newcomer of the year. He scored over 2,000 points in his career and went on to a great NBA career. And if you like big bangers, the big old workhorses down low, you got to like the Clydesdale. Ed Neely, 3-time Big 8 All-American. As he was all academic, he went with the Chicago Bulls, won 2 NBA titles. You need a rebound? Call on Ed Neely. And Mitch Richmond, one of the tremendous scorers in NBA history. He broke Bob Boozer's single-season record with 678 points. When you talk Boozer and Richmond, you talk about 2 of the all-time greats at Kansas State. His jersey has been retired by the Sacramento Kings. And my all-time K-State coach, with apologies to Jack Gardner and Jack Hartman, Tex Winter, 2 Final Fours. As an assistant, he was also part of other Final Four teams at Kansas State and the father of the triangle offense. And I kind of remember that offense with the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan.
They won a few NBA titles, didn't they?
Just a few.
I love how you researched this. You kept putting down apologies to this person and that person. I know you felt bad about leaving out Hartman.
I really did, because what a tremendous coach. When you talk defense, it's Jack Hartman.
Let's talk about Xavier and the great players of all time. We highlighted one of them in the arena tonight, Mr. Larkin, as we go back to On the Mark.
Well, when I think Xavier in the recent past, I think David West, the National Player of the Year. He was a dominating rebounder, 3-time Atlantic 10 Player of the Year, National Player of the Year. You need a big basket, get it down low to David West. Tyrone Hill, he is a beloved figure here in Cincinnati. Xavier's all-time leading rebounder, and with over 2,000 points, was an NBA lottery pick. This guy at the old Midwest Collegiate Conference, 1990, Player of the Year. And Byron Larkin, my buddy who sits just a few seats down from us, a guy that could slash, he could score, created some of the great upsets in Xavier history. 3-time MCC tourney MVP. You need a big basket, a big game, give it to Byron Larkin. Hank Stein, 1958 NIT tournament champion, the MVP. We've talked about that team. They lost 10 out of their last 15 games, but then Hank Stein came along and delivered the championship to Xavier University. And Steve Thomas, back in the early 1960s, averaged 30 points per game. A consensus All-American, team MVP. Steve Thomas had a sweet stroke and the ability to score. And for my all-time coach at Xavier University, Jim McCafferty. You know, I got to apologize to guys like Thad Mott and Pete Dillon and Bob Stack and Skip Prosser, but this guy created the aura of Xavier being a national elite program back in the late 1950s. Jim McCafferty, my all-time coach for the Xavier Musketeers.
On the Mark with Mark Adams here at halftime on ESPNU, when Mark and I return and highlights of the first half. Kansas State's down by a bunch, 44-25. Drew Lavender having his way so far with the Wildcats. K-State limited to a season-low 25 points and down by 19 at halftime, and this little guy is struggling to hang in there, but I think he will. Hey, it's New Year's Eve. You got to stay up, right? It's still a few hours before the bubbly gets broken.
Absolutely. I'm a little old. I might fall asleep, but I think you're ready to go.
Yeah, well, you're entertaining after the game, so we plan on you staying up late tonight.
Absolutely. Barber family and Adams family getting together.
Palatial suite. Let's go back to the first half and Xavier running the court.
Well, Xavier was able to get off to a quick start, a 14-0 run early, and then 16-2. You there see Drew Lavender taking it to the rack, and Xavier's been so effective offensively because of the distribution of the ball. Right there, you see Derek Brown taking it along the baseline. How about Drew Lavender giving up right there? And Derek Brown going up to the stratosphere for the rim rattler. And Bill Walker has been the bright spot for Frank Martin and the Kansas State Wildcats. He's been able to get the ball in the paint, and he can deliver with authority. This guy's played physical, he's played tough. Bill Walker has shown up here in Cincinnati, where he played his high school ball at North College Hill.
And, of course, you didn't mention Michael Beasley because he has scored only 1 point tonight. Suffered foul trouble, hasn't played the last 6.5 minutes. Remarkably, Kansas State actually had a run toward the end of the first half.
Right now, if you're Kansas State, you've got to go back to really what got you there. If you are the Xavier Musketeers, it's all about the quick release of Drew Lavender. Watch how he shoots this basketball. Look at that, right there, just gets rid of it so quick. He almost shoots it from his chest. It's very difficult to block a Drew Lavender shot because he releases it so quickly.
Should mention that Beasley has started the second half and typically has better second halves than the play in the first 20 minutes. And he'll need to have one for Kansas State to have any chance of rallying from a huge deficit.
Well, remember when Earl Campbell of the Texas Longhorns would get better in the second half, just wear out defenses? Michael Beasley is the same type of player. Very productive, shoots almost 70% in the second half of games.
And you have to love Fred Brown. He has scored 12 of Kansas State's last 21 points, averages 3 points a game coming into tonight.
Kansas State certainly started this second half a lot better as they get a good look with an aggressive play. Great hustle right there by Kansas State.
And as a result, Stewart comes up with the ball for the Wildcats. 16-point deficit, a lot of clock to be played. Stewart on a drive, rolls it in. A great start for Kansas State for the second half. And that 14-point deficit that it seemed like the Cats started the game with, well, they're back at that number again.
It was all about energy in the first half, and Xavier had more of it. But right now, Kansas State is accepting the challenge. I like the look in the eye of this young basketball team and their young coach, Frank Martin.
Derek Brown with an answer. He usually plays his game inside from 0-point range, but in this particular instance, short jump shot hit it. Kansas State's got to be careful with the ball, and this really is what the Wildcats got into trouble with in the first half, is protecting the ball.
And what a frustrating night for the nation's leading rebounder. Number 4 scorer in the country, only 1 point tonight, averages 25.8 points per game. Credit the Xavier defense. They've been all over him.
And when he went out with 6.5 minutes to go in the first half, Kansas State actually outscored Xavier 18-14. Up pass inside. Musketeers get a break and get it back.
Kansas State coming out so much more physical and aggressive defensively. This is the Kansas State that I saw on film. This team has come out prepared, ready to play here in the second half.
5 on the shot clock. Shot forced inside. Ball still loose. And on the foul, Love's going to get free throws coming up because he worked so hard.
Watch the hustle for the basketball. K-State in good position right there defensively. And Blake Young just got thrown to the court and then called for a foul.
Michael Beasley just picked up his 3rd foul. If you're Frank Martin, what's your decision?
You know, in this case, I'm going to let him play for a while. I think he's got to get into the rhythm of the game, and they've got to leave him on the floor for a while, down by 17. And what do you have to lose? Keep your best player out there. Get him involved.
Averages 25 points, 13 rebounds a game. Tonight has scored a single point with 7 rebounds. Like to move Beasley around. He can shoot the 3-point shot. Bad pass by Brown. Picked up by Brown on the other end, and Derek on the drive to the basket. Has a foul called. And Brown is down.
Well, look at the athleticism right there. Derek Brown going up with that big left paw and bringing it down, then leading the break. Gets a steal and then takes it down 94 feet.
Beasley can handle the ball, so do you try to bring him outside, send some picks, see if he can do something from the perimeter?
I think you try to get him on the line by getting him some touches at the elbow, you know, somewhere in that medium-range paint area to get him going, and then make him be aggressive, try to get some fouls, get him on the free throw line. That's how scorers get going.
Lavender gave up the dribble, passed it inside to Love. Love knows exactly what to do with the ball. He attacks the goal, and Xavier's lead is up to 20.
Lavender with the assist, Jason Love with the good hands.
Walker triple team, took it to the basket and banked it in.
See, Michael Beasley can take a page out of Bill Walker's little playbook here. Get the ball, advance to the basket, stop under control, easy off the glass. Bill Walker playing very smart basketball tonight.
Walker has 13. Tough assignment matching up against Lavender. And Young's doing all he can out there, but Lavender, an Exo senior, taking on the competition.
Right there, a little fade with that quick draw jump shot.
Lavender, All-American candidate, and Walker trying to do everything right now. Unsuccessful in that turn. Turns the ball over. 10 turnovers for Frank Martin's team, which finds itself down by a bunch.
We saw Drew Lavender with the quick draw earlier. Now we see the stop, the fade, the quick draw. The little guy creates space with quickness, step back, quick draw, deuce.
If you're Xavier, you go after Beasley and get his 4th and get him out?
Absolutely. Make Josh Duncan get on the block and do some dirty work and go right after Michael Beasley.
Right now they're muscling for position out at the free throw line. C.J. Anderson controls for Xavier. Xavier's been in control all night. And another foul as the Musketeers go to the goal.
And they got Bill Walker for that foul. I thought it might have been Michael Beasley.
It's 2 on Walker.
Watch Beasley on the backside try to help a little bit. Walker kind of taps him on the head. C.J. Anderson to the line.
C.J. had a wonderful night the other evening against Delaware State. Took 7 shots, hit 6 of them, and scored 12 points. Xavier did not trail in the win Friday night 65-33, and the Musketeers have been up since the two teams arrived off the bus tonight.
Every team needs a C.J. Anderson type of guy, a guy that's got great work ethic. He's going to do some of that blue-collar work down low, and C.J. Anderson has accepted that role. with Sean Miller here at Xavier.
He's a matchup problem too, isn't he, Anderson?
He really is, because he can put the ball on the floor, he can create space for himself, get into the basket. He's a good offensive rebounder, so you can stick a smaller guy on him, he'll take him down and score over him and jump over him. He is a mismatch problem, very athletic.
Here's Fred Brown, who off the bench has scored 12 for Kansas State. Beasley, Young, and Walker. Just about everybody with a touch on this possession. Beasley tries a three. His third field goal attempt. Great save by Stewart, and he saved it to Walker, who scores. But the woes of Michael Beasley continuing tonight. 3 personal fouls, just 3 field goal attempts, 1 point.
Oh, and you got to remember, he is a freshman.
True.
There will be nights like this. And, oh, by the way, the entire Xavier defense, which almost upset Ohio State last year to go to the Sweet 16, is completely focused on Michael Beasley. They're almost saying to Bill Walker, get yours, we're stopping Beasley.
And the Musketeers have done just that tonight. Well, Xavier hoping for better things from Josh Duncan. He can shoot the ball, and there he rattles home a 3. Ball lost inside, picked up by Duncan. And Kansas State started so well in the second half. What's happened, Mark?
Well, Michael Beasley, the best player, just having a rough night. It's just that simple. He's a great player, very good competitor. He's learned a valuable lesson here tonight. He's still got to think he can get it going. I like that he's getting in the paint now.
Here's Stewart trying to rattle home a 3, and he does just that to make it 56-37. Of course, as you mentioned, Xavier's had a lot to do with defending Beasley tonight. Musketeers come in at 9-3. Quality loss to Tennessee in a game that it appeared the Musketeers had won, and a lot of people feel another 21 season coming here in Cincinnati.
Remember, this Xavier team knocked off Indiana. They also beat Cincinnati out of the Big East as well.
Raymond a catch and shoot 3 and a miss, and with that, a TV timeout. Steady Stu with a 3 moments ago for Kansas State, but a long way to go for the Wildcats. 15 minutes remaining. They trail by 19. Xavier improving its NCAA tournament stock nicely tonight, leading 56-37. More college ball on ESPNU Wednesday night. Lafayette Leopards against Sam Young and the Pittsburgh Panthers, now rated 13th in the country. College basketball on ESPNU Wednesday night at 7 Eastern. For more info, log on to ESPNU.com. And then it's the women at 9 o'clock. Great matchup in the Chicagoland area. Number 3, Lady Vols against the 13th ranked Blue Demons. Women's college basketball, ESPNU Wednesday night at 9 Eastern at Summit. 947 wins, the most of anybody in D1, 7 national championships, 26 SEC titles, and a terrific graduation rate.
She could win in men's basketball, women's basketball, I don't care. She can coach.
First 4 minutes of this game in each half, vital to the success of Xavier. And Duncan playing with some energy now as well.
Playing with a lot of energy, and that's something that Sean Miller loves to see. Attacking the basket by big Josh Duncan and completing the play with a little fist pump. Some energy from Josh Duncan.
Michael Beasley out of the game right now for Kansas State. But in the meantime, another made 3 from the outside. And this team that struggles so badly to shoot the 3, getting great support from Fred Brown, who is having a wonderful night tonight off the bench. 3 made 3s, 6 of 8 field goals overall, and 15 points.
Fred Brown's been the best player on the floor for Kansas State.
I would agree.
There's a guy that came off the bench, and you love guys that accept their roles, fill their roles. And Fred Brown, how did he do it? Not by scoring early. It was by defending, getting after loose balls. He dove for a loose ball and got his team playing with some energy.
In the other night, in a win over Wagner, he couldn't hit the outside jumper. 0 of 5 3-point shots. Tonight he has hit 3 of 4. Foul on Anderson. Free throws coming up for C.J. Anderson.
You can win in the Big 12 with guys like Fred Brown who are willing to come in off the bench, give you some depth, give you quality minutes, give you energy. And you've got to find a way to beat Kansas. And of course, Michael Beasley made some statements in the preseason about they can beat Kansas anywhere. Africa, at their place, at our place, it doesn't matter. Michael Beasley laid down the gauntlet in August.
Games coming up with KU on January 30th and March 1st. The game at Fog Allen Fieldhouse is on March 1.
You think those boats aren't going to be hanging of the banners of Fog Allen Fieldhouse. I mean, I like his confidence, no question about that.
Kent comes over to set a high pick. Ball goes inside to Anderson. Kansas State playing pretty well without its leader tonight, Michael Beasley.
Well, Clint Stewart filling his role. Distribution guy getting into gaps, giving it up.
Beasley forced into 5 turnovers, and the attack tonight by Sean Miller defensively against him. A well-managed game plan.
Well, certainly a frustrated young man in Michael Beasley, but there's a reason why Xavier has had 20-win seasons, 20 out of the last 25. It's because they've been very well coached. They execute their game plan, and they brought along young head coaches throughout who have developed into some of the game's great head coaches. Thad Matta, of course. You're looking at Sean Miller now, who's done a tremendous job here. Pete Gillen, who went on to Wake Forest. Bob Stack, who also went on to Wake Forest. We've had a long, long run of great coaches here at Xavier University. Of course, we've had a lot of great coaches at K-State as well.
Oh, yeah. The X-fans hoping that they can keep their coach, Sean Miller. He's contracted through 2015 and 16.
Of course, Frank Martin took over for Bob Huggins. You got Cotton Fitzsimmons, Tex Winter. You got the 2 Jacks, Gardner and Hartman. Dana Altman also spent time in Manhattan. Of course, he's doing a great job with that Creighton Ball Club. They're listed as one of my top bracket buster conference types of teams.
Here's Brown stripped as he was looking to pass the ball. And before he even got a chance to pass it, had his arm in motion toward the goal. He'll shoot twice. Well, this is Fred Brown's coming out party tonight, isn't it?
He's really played well. And the thing that I've liked about him is that while he has 15 points, he only averages 3.6 on the season. He's contributed in ways of giving some skin up on the floor, stepping and taking the charge, distributing the basketball.
16 points in 15 minutes of play.
Well, this is so important for Frank Martin's evaluation of this team going on the road, hostile environment. They've been in their comfort zone. They've played at home, and they've played well, averaged 90 points per game over the last 4 ball games.
We're still a distance away from Selection Sunday, but what's at stake tonight won't plenty, because these 2 teams want to put a good quality win on the schedule. For the committee to take a look. Love with a second opportunity, and he'll go to the free throw line to try to earn it.
Now, Jim, you bring up a great point about the NCAA tournament. Xavier right now is 2-2 against the 6 power conferences. And Kansas State is 1-2 coming into this game. Now, Xavier has Auburn and Virginia coming up. So a victory tonight would make them 3-2 against the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, the Big East.
With that in mind, let's visit ESPN.com's mid-major top 10. Butler pulling out another great win at Southern Illinois, and Dayton with the blowout victory over Pitt over the weekend.
Look at all the Atlantic 10 teams. Xavier, you got Dayton, Rhode Island, UMass, all there. And also all 4 of those teams are ranked in the top 20 in the RPIs right now. Atlantic 10 is good and deep.
If you're Xavier, if you're Butler, Gonzaga, does it come a point where you don't want to be a mid-major or considered as a mid-major?
Well, you know what? I want to be ranked good in anything.
Okay.
And you know what? Those teams right now, listen, you got your Power 6 conferences, and what I don't think they're mid-majors. I think they're bracket buster conferences, and they're teams that don't play the big-time football, but they make deep runs, as Sean Miller did a year ago, as Thad Matta did to the Elite 8 in 2004. If I'm in the NCAA tournament, I do not want to see Xavier being my first-round opponent.
Oh, no. Here's Raymond, who had a good first half. Oh! Brown, way above the slam home.
50% of Derek Brown's points come off of flushes like that.
Back the other way, Fred Brown, a career night for the freshman from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Fred Brown and Bill Walker have played well tonight, no question about it.
Right now, the Wildcats trading points with the Musketeers. That won't work in an effort to come back. And let's look at Derek Brown get up higher and higher.
Derek Brown B.J. Anderson puts it up, but nobody lays a body on Derek Brown. And when you don't lay a body on Derek Brown, can you imagine that, Jim? 50% of his points come from flushes like that.
He had 16 rebounds in an NCAA tournament game against BYU last March.
He can really get up quick.
Brown is a sophomore.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is. Stanley Burrell, a senior.
And that's another thing, a little advantage that Xavier has. These guys are going to stay around for 4 years.
Burrell first handle of basketball at age 4. Fell in love with it at that point. The rest has been pretty good history here at Xavier. Brown and Walker have combined for 34 of the Cats' points. They have only 46 for the game. And of the rest of the team, just 12. Michael Beasley, averaging 25 a game coming in, has scored a point. He's been frustrated by Xavier's defense, forced into turnovers, and sits on the bench due to personal fouls. He has 3 for the game.
Well, even with Michael Beasley's issues tonight, certainly Frank Martin has to feel good about 3 things. His team came out to start the second half. They've competed hard. They've competed well. And Michael Beasley has seen his teammates step up for him. Bill Walker, Freddie Brown have been productive.
Fred Brown just earned some quality playing time. Rebound to Derek Brown. Here comes Drew Lavender, who closed out the first half with a flurry of points. Got 7 in the last minute or so on Brown. Little finger roll to the hoop.
I'm disappointed when he doesn't dunk it.
Are you really? Well, he was close. Canada drop down to Anderson. Can't get the N1, but he will get free throws. When we return, another look at Derek Brown and his high wire act for the Xavier University Musketeers, who are in complete control with 11.5 left, 67-46. Xavier started this game tonight in Cincinnati up 14-0 and in control right now 67-46. Jim Barber, Mark Adams, happy holidays from ESPNU. Well, Michael Beasley, as much as he struggled tonight, perhaps it's the shoes, as Spike Lee might say. The shoes money, just 1 point this evening. And Beasley had to borrow, if you would, a pair of 17s because his shoes weren't available on this trip. They got purchased by Andy Asselin, who is the director of basketball operations with Kansas State, from Corey Brin, who had that position formerly with Cincinnati. And shoes have done him no favors tonight, have they?
I'm going to kayak home in those shoes after the game.
And it doesn't fit with the purple either.
You know, and as stylish as we are.
Yeah, you're right.
Our tuxedos tonight, you know, we're making a fashion statement. But maybe Michael Beasley is making a much cooler fashion statement.
We have set the bar rather high tonight, haven't we?
Absolutely. There's very few ways you can make a guy with a great face for radio like they look good. And one way is to rent a tux.
K-State goes zone with 11:20 remaining.
This is the first time we've seen zone tonight out of Kansas State. And one reason why you don't play a lot of zone against Xavier is because Stanley Burrell and Drew Lavender from deep.
You can shoot him out of the zone. Jacob Porn recognizing that Xavier was back on its heels. Roll the ball into the basket. The freshman's got a future at Kansas State, does he not?
He absolutely does. And Kansas State now with that little 3-2 zone with Bill Walker out top.
Second half, both teams have shot the ball well, but Xavier has been able to hold its position and actually improve on the lead. Here's Raymond for 3. Rebound taken down by Michael Beasley, his 8th board of the night. Holland driving and missing. Second opportunity, no. And it would have been a breakaway, except Walker knocked the ball out of bounds for Kansas State. Again, happy holidays to you, and all of us in here at ESPNU. A pleasure to be with you on New Year's Eve.
That tie right there, buddy. There you go.
How do we look now? Modeling career, perhaps?
No, absolutely not. No, no way. Well, maybe for you, not for me. I know that.
Well, you know, the way our producer, Todd Koulis, and the crew put together Open tonight, and our careers are all downhill after that anyway.
Hey, I was in character for that entire routine. I was acting.
Walking out in spotlight form here. That was pretty special.
Did you like my gym shoes with it?
Yes, I did. The white The white works for the black, doesn't it?
No question. Stylish without being gaudy.
Well said. Another timeout at 10:07 to go. This one's almost in the bank for Xavier. 72-48. Let's take a break, and we'll come back with more from U.S. Bank Arena here in Cincinnati. 2008 set to begin in a little less than 3.5 hours. If you've been in downtown Cincinnati tonight, you'll know it's a party atmosphere. Just about everybody's in the mood and ready to burst. Oh, yeah, we are too.
You know, we had a lot of fun with our pregame tonight.
We did.
Of course, we got great direction from Todd Koulis, who told me to think Pierce Brosnan. Did I pull it off?
You did.
There we are. Look at that. Milking each other.
Now I know how Frank Sinatra felt. Huh?
Absolutely, yeah, walking into the distance. And also, thanks to Chris Farrow at ESPNU, we're sending you the bill.
Yeah, and he said he would pick up the tab, so
Absolutely,
we appreciate that.
Yeah, a couple $1,000s, no big deal.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and Happy New Year to you and the rest of the folks at ESPNU. In the meantime, 10 minutes to go, and a look back to Michael Beasley's 17s that have been purchased at the last minute in order for him to play tonight. His normal 17s on the campus of KSU not available.
Well, sometimes you got to invest a little in your best player.
Oh, I agree. That's not a problem. And it's not the reason Beasley's been held to a single point, but he has had a rough night all the way around, and it includes his wardrobe.
But he does have a couple blocks, and he's also starting to approach 10 rebounds for this game as well.
Holland shooting. Oh, rebound. Walker up with one hand.
Bright spots? Yeah, rising to the sun. Bill Walker.
You know, it's important to note that the other freshmen tonight, Walker and Brown, have done themselves very proud. Lavender takes Young off the dribble again, scores the ball, and will shoot one.
Well, Bill Walker showing some toughness here as Pullen pulls the trigger. Look at Bill Walker just sky over everybody. Well, I love his game. He just elevates. He plays hard. A lot of freshmen going on the road, of course. An injury last year that kept him out of this Wildcat lineup. And he's making it pay dividends. He's worked hard to get back into good shape. And he's playing at an extremely high level.
K-State will have a week off, Mark, before it plays Savannah State and then into conference action. Where do you see the Wildcats working in the league this year?
I picked them for third in the conference. Of course, Brandon Rush and company at Kansas, and then Texas. How about Rick Barnes and the job that he's done? You know, you lose one of the great players in college basketball, and then you just sort of retool and rebuild. And I like Texas, then I like Kansas State as my number 3 team. Texas A&M, Missouri, Oklahoma. Those are my top 6 in the Big 12.
Oklahoma, solid win over the weekend against West Virginia. Bob Huggins in double overtime. Well, let's talk about that great freshman, Beasley, as he compares to a former freshman, now in the NBA, Kevin Durant.
And Michael Beasley averaging more points, almost 4 more rebounds per game, shooting a better percentage. Now, that's outside of the Big 12, but certainly you can see that Michael Beasley is a guy that's every bit as good as Kevin Durant. I like his body actually better, and I think he's a much better rebounder.
Beasley's number set to drop after tonight's game because he's been held to just a point. And only 3 field goal attempts. Again, credit to the way they have surrounded him tonight, frustrated him from the moment this game began. And his guys couldn't get him enough touches this evening.
You know, he's handled himself well, though. He doesn't seem like a guy right now. I think Frank Martin has done a good job working with him and bringing him out and letting him continue to play and work through it. You've got to do that with a freshman. Michael Beasley's had as storied a beginning. We're talking about 12 double-doubles to open up your freshman season. I think Frank Martin realizes, hey, he's having a tough night. Let's play through it.
And in the process has discovered a kid off the bench in the position of Fred Brown, who has played very well this evening. Has led them in scoring with 19 points and 7 of 9 field goals. There, Brown picks up an offensive foul, but he's had a quality night scoring the ball and with just an average of 3 points a game has really caught the attention of his coach, I'm sure.
And the designated defender for Xavier, Stanley Burrell, steps in and takes the charge.
Still a lot of ball to be played this season, but and Burrell even cleaning up here, huh? And he does it well.
And he'll graduate from Xavier University. He'll get a look in the NBA because he's so athletic. He can guard, as he showed Eric Gordon in that win over Indiana.
Well, that wonderful senior class that includes his backcourt mate, Drew Lavender. Talked about this at the beginning, over 200 combined starts between the two. Beasley still stuck on a point. And now gets a steal. Little push shot from the outside by Brown, who now has 22, including 4 of 5 made three-pointers.
Fred Brown is coming to the Big 12 in a city near you.
Yeah, look out. Walker tries to intimidate on the shot. Nobody backs up on the weak side. And blocks out, and Anderson scores easily. And right now, Xavier in command in this game, can trade points without any problem. They're left 25, 78-53.
And we're starting to see the power of the Atlantic 10 Conference here. Certainly Xavier was a preseason favorite.
Fred Brown's playing time very limited coming into tonight. But this evening he has been electric. A career high 22 on 8 of 10 shooting.
Alex Merrick.
$78.50. The best of the new year to you from ESPNU. Jim Barber, Mark Adams back at US Bank Arena, where Xavier leads 78-55, 7:25 remaining for the game. Time now for the on the mark all Big 12 team. Pretty good names in there.
Absolutely. Arthur, of course, Brandon Rush, a guy that's a leader for Bill Self and the Kansas Jayhawks, and Augustin, Abrams, Beasley. Alex Merrick, a guy out of Nebraska you don't hear a lot about, a big guy, very, very skilled. You know, Nebraska could make a move behind Alex Merrick. Newcomer of the year, Michael Beasley, and of course, the Atlantic 10, we've seen Lavender tonight. Brian Roberts, who scored 31 points in the victory over number 6 Pitt. Lemeyer Goldwire down at Charlotte for Bobby Lutz's ball club. Will Daniels, one of the top 25 teams in the country at Rhode Island. And then Pat Calathis, a guy, I like him because he's 6'11", he can handle it, he's a 3-man, he can pass it and knock down the 3. And Chris Wright's my newcomer of the year in the Atlantic 10 Conference. Very strong conference this year, the best it's been since 2004.
Xavier in its last 22 possessions, 1 turnover. That's how good Lavender and the rest are at ball security.
When you've got a senior at point guard, you've got a senior at off guard, and you mentioned the senior class. Sean Miller and Xavier, the reason why they've been successful for decades now is bringing along for 4 years guys that stay in their program and get better every year with great coaching.
Makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You know, and Frank Martin has, you know, at least with Michael Beasley, of course, a lot of talk about him going to the NBA next season. There's a strong possibility of that, but the kid has done very well in the classroom. So he's shown a commitment to the educational process and to being on campus at Kansas State. Interesting to see what decision he makes after the season.
Speak of Beasley, his GPA over 3+ for the first year. That is impressive with all the hype around him and what he might do after the first year. For up-to-the-minute news for everything that is college sports, log on to ESPNU.com. If you don't have ESPNU, be sure to log on to ESPNU.com and type in your zip code at the top of the page. Or call your local cable operator or satellite provider. Log on to ESPNU.com today. You find yourself late at night on the website for what seems like minutes turning into hours.
Yeah, I live out there. I have to admit, I've become a computer geek, and a lot of it's because of ESPNU.com.
One good article to another. Lavender knocks down the free throws. 7 minutes even for the game.
In 1,050 games broadcast on the ESPN family of networks. Of course, Jim, we have the privilege of calling a lot of those games. We're just thrilled to be here tonight.
I've seen you working so much lately. Are you working about half of those? Just seems like it, eh? You deserve it, though.
I'm loving every single minute.
And you're getting to see some of the great high school players in the country as well.
Absolutely. Had a great time down in Houston for Houston versus the Nation. Yates High School knocked off previously #1 Oak Hill in the preseason, and then they knocked off St. Patrick's the other night, who was the current #1. So Greg Wise and his team down in Houston, Texas, congratulations to them. Saw Brandon Jennings, who's going to Arizona. Anthony Jones, who plays for that Yates High School team, headed for Baylor. And Scott Drew, son of Homer Drew, of course, Homer at Valpo.
By the way, you mentioned that game in Houston. Led into our live broadcast this evening here from U.S. Bank Arena.
So I was in Houston before this game and in Cincinnati tonight.
So when you fill out those invoices after you arrive home from Pittsburgh, cha-ching, right? Walker almost banked in a 3, and there's Duncan with a rebound. Beasley goes down. It's a 5 against 4 for Xavier. It's a power play.
Watch out, here we go.
Brown still hustling, keeps it alive for Xavier. And a push call on Kansas State.
The will to win by a seasoned basketball team, the Xavier Musketeers. You see time and time again, Derek Brown going up, pogoing, keeping the ball alive, and then B.J. Raymond gets fouled right in front of the Xavier bench.
The loss for Xavier to Tennessee just a little while back seems to have helped this team in some ways, because it came out and played great defense the other night against Delaware State. Arguably not as good an opponent as Tennessee, certainly. But Sean Miller's team just clamping down on all areas. They thought they should have won that game against Tennessee, and Tennessee just had too much bench down the stretch and made the big plays.
Well, a couple of lazy passes, late game situation led to breakout runs for Tennessee, and Tennessee simply wore down this team. That's where Xavier is not as strong from a depth perspective. Xavier trying to develop that depth off the bench with Sean Miller tonight.
When you mentioned that, 5 players in double figures tonight for Xavier, and possibly a couple more before the night's over. Kansas State's freshman doing the majority of its scoring tonight. In fact, almost all of its scoring this evening. Going to have to find other people to score the ball, and certainly had Beasley had a better night, Wildcats would be in this game.
Well, he averages 25 a game, and right now down by 26. They could certainly use the offensive contribution of Michael Beasley, but it's just one of those nights.
And we go back to something you mentioned earlier on how Sean Miller defended Greg Oden, the NCAA tournament second round game in Lexington, lost in overtime. In fact, if Miller's team hits a free throw in regulation, you don't have to worry about that made 3 at the end of the game that forced the OT.
And if Greg Oden is called for an intentional foul while throwing the Xavier player out of bounds, we aren't talking about Ohio State going to play Florida for the national championship last season.
Miller does an excellent job of defending the big guys, and Lavender gets a standing ovation tonight in a chant of Drew. And Drew tonight had 21 points.
I did not expect this outcome tonight. I got a chance to watch Kansas State on multiple occasions, played very well against Cal, very competitive in the game against Oregon. This is a ball club with a great talent, but like I said, sometimes when you take teams, young teams on the road, strange things happen, and strange things have happened tonight for Michael Beasley in Kansas State.
Xavier now with 6 players in double figures. That balance they're looking for, and in trying to improve the depth of this team coming out tonight, at least in one game against Kansas State. And if you're Sean Miller, what's the most important thing you take away from tonight's win?
I think team play overall. In fact, that stat you just recited with 6 players in double figures, that's Xavier basketball. We're talking about 6 guys who average between 9.8 points and 11.8 points per game. Only 3 players have scored over 20 points in a game this season. Lavender went for 28 against Creighton, Anderson 20 against Coppin State, and Duncan 20 versus Kent. This is a very balanced team. It's a pick-your-poison team. That's why they're so dangerous to play.
And with 87 points on the board and counting tonight. Xavier gets set to play at the Cintas Center on Thursday night against Virginia, then flies out to Auburn on Saturday for a Sunday afternoon game. Duncan with a pass for Burrell, acknowledges the pass, buries the three.
Well, whatever Sean Miller said before this game and to prepare this team after Tennessee, I'm sure Xavier fans would like for him to just sort of bottle that up.
It's the 7th made three tonight for Kansas State. Typically a team that doesn't shoot the three ball very well, but it's gotten better because Walker has scored 29 and Brown has backed him up with 22.
He has 30 friends and family here in Cincinnati attending the game. Bill Walker has shown up tonight.
And now we just had a game of horse from 15, 20, 25 feet beyond. Walker on the baseline. 7 of Xavier players now have scored in double figures today.
Well, I like that effort from Bill Walker. Gets his shot rejected, takes it right back, and takes it right to the rim. Showing some maturity and guts there from Bill Walker.
In fact, as it turns out, the only 7 players that have scored tonight for the Musketeers.
Wow.
You know, they call this garbage time, but Xavier's still playing with the kind of energy we saw when this game began. Anderson with free throw line. We come back. Standing ovation for Sean Miller and his Musketeers. For a night's work, Drew Lavender 21 points and 4 assists, leading Xavier to what will be its 10th win of the season.
Now, Drew Lavender is the cerebral point guard for the Xavier University basketball team as he gets around defenders, can distribute. Little quick draw there with the step back fade. I mean, Drew Lavender's done everything, bombs it from downtown. You know, when Xavier needs a big play, he may not make the play, but he's going to develop the play for somebody else. Drew Lavender.
One-sided update in our Star Watch. Michael Beasley with just a point. Lavender finishing with 21. We had a chance to chat with Lavender after practice today. Seemed like he was in a pretty good frame of mind.
Absolutely. He's a guy that's matured a great deal over the years. Started off at Oklahoma, was able to leave Oklahoma, come to Xavier, get into a little different atmosphere and a little bit of difference in style of play as well. He feels comfortable here. I talked to Chris Mack, the assistant coach, also about Drew. There he is with 16 points tonight. But look at the balanced scoring of this basketball team. A lot of it's because Lavender is willing to get everybody involved. 7
players in double figures. How many times has that happened?
For Xavier, actually, it happens fairly often, at least with 6 anyway. They all average between 9.8 and 11 points.
Well, that's a good point.
But in college basketball, not very often.
No, and I should elaborate. Against quality opponents, you don't see that in college basketball very often, and I think K-State is a quality opponent. Having a bad night.
That's a great way to describe it. Kansas State is a ball club that I've watched. They play hard. Defensively, they can be stifling with their athleticism. They've got a great competitor in Frank Martin leading this basketball program. He's paid his dues. He insists that things are done the right way. He's an old high school math teacher. You go to class or you don't play. It's real simple around Kansas State. And while it's a tough night tonight, he's building the foundation for a lot of great years at Kansas State.
And his other freshmen, Bill Walker and Fred Brown, have combined for 53 points tonight, getting the scoring out of Walker that they so badly need. Martin, an assistant coach for 3 seasons under Bob Huggins.
I met Frank when he was an assistant to Rudy Keeling up at Northeastern and had a reputation as truly one of the great recruiters in college basketball. Great assistant coach with a lot of energy. He's earned his stripes, and he should be sitting on that bench as the head coach.
Actually, 2 seasons for Martin at UC. By the way, Huggins and Kansas State may get together next year in the Las Vegas Invitational. Both teams are paired to be home court teams to start the first 2 games of that tournament. Then everybody goes out to Vegas and they could see each other.
Yeah, I didn't think that West Virginia would be coming to Manhattan anytime soon.
No. Although the 2 sides still keep in touch, as Sutton, just in his 2nd game since being cleared by the NCAA.
Listen, Bob Huggins got an opportunity to go back to his alma mater. Sometimes timing is everything in Kansas State. Of course, Frank Martin understands that Bob Huggins had a great opportunity at Kansas State. Frank went with him. And then all of a sudden, the West Virginia thing comes available when John Beilein had a huge buyout. ends up going to Michigan anyway. And Bob just felt like that maybe he wouldn't get another chance to go home.
What is it about West Virginia coaches going to the maize and blue? 2 minutes and change left in our game on New Year's Eve in Cincinnati at US Bank Arena. Jim Barber, Mark Adams, great to have you with us tonight for all or part of the broadcast. Now ready to wrap this one up. We've talked about Xavier's success in the last 5+ seasons. That's in the top 20 in the NCAA.
Yeah, they've just had a tremendous run with great players. David West, we talked about him. You know, Justin Cage, Justin Dolman, Romain Sato, Lionel Chalmers over the last several years. This has been an offensive and defensive juggernaut, the Xavier Musketeers.
I think of Xavier's success, I compare it to Butler. You talk about the great players, you've highlighted the great coaches. The coaches have had a lot to do with that.
Recruited at a very high level, and you know, Sean Miller, they don't recruit Atlantic 10 level kids, they recruit Big 10 guys, Big East guys. I see Brian Gregory doing the same thing at Dayton as well.
Yep. Having a wonderful year, and UD has cracked the top 25. Congratulations to Brian and his team.
Rhode Island as well, number 23 in the country, 50 miles apart. Dayton and Xavier, when the Atlantic 10 used to be a Philadelphia-based type conference, you got to say the power right now is in Rhode Island and in Dayton and in Cincinnati.
And there's your 100th point of the night for Xavier. I'd like to see a show of hands in our audience. How many people thought X would score 100?
Well, we knew it would be a high-scoring game because both of these teams are willing to get up and down.
But it's been a while since that's been accomplished. Go back to December 8th of 2001. 3 on the way, buried by Fred Brown. I don't think he's going to leave this arena tonight.
I'm happy for that young man. He's put in his time. He's put in his work. He swallowed his ego. He came off the bench. Just did a tremendous job tonight. Fred Brown. We started calling him downtown.
Yeah. Former NBA namesake, 25 for Brown. Tonight he has 5 of 6 made threes. Bill Walker has a career-high 31. This is Jacob Pullen, the freshman. Beasley still without a field goal. Able to save the ball in the corner. But Michael doesn't force things. And that's one of the attributes of great players. Let the game come to them. Of course, tonight he tried to make some things happen early, and Xavier had him surrounded. He made some turnovers. He got into foul trouble, and his evening was in big trouble.
Well, Michael Beasley is a great player who's had a bad night. It's just that simple. Credit Xavier's defense, certainly. But this kid will learn and bounce back from this experience. I don't want to be the next opponent against Michael Beasley.
Bill Walker finishes with a career-high 31 and 6 tonight on 13 of 23 made field goals.
And what this young team will learn, the two guys, Freddie Brown and Bill Walker, showed up, played hard, and played extremely well. But to win against a quality opponent like Xavier, more than 2 have to produce.
Beasley with 2 free throws, 3 for the game. Again, his average is 25. And everybody getting into it. Dante Jackson with a long-range 3. And Xavier's made 9 of 17 threes tonight.
Jim, we're staying in downtown Cincinnati tonight. I think there's going to be a party going on.
You can see why. This is not a particularly large crowd, but it has been a fired-up one from the beginning.
A bunch of blue-clad Catholics are going to be partying tonight in downtown Cincinnati.
Well said, my friend. They're standing here at US Bank Arena. Beasley's basket moments ago, his first and only one of the game. We put a blanket on him tonight. And this one here in Cincinnati is officially over. A clinic by Xavier this evening.
Xavier came out with more energy, executed well, And Josh Duncan, along with Drew Lavender and Stanley Burrell, got it done in a big way.
Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year, Jim.
See you after the show. Again, our final score tonight, Xavier 103, Kansas State 77. For Mark Adams and our entire ESPNU crew, I'm Jim Barber. Coming up next, the 2007 Petro Sun Independence Bowl. For more information, log on to ESPNU.com. The preceding has been an exclusive presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader.